to the Writer's Studio. We're doing an online special beta testing version with screenwriter, writer, Hollywood producer, and just literary extraordinaire, Ellen Myers Fontana, who comes from a very literary connection. One of our co-founders, Jack Myers, the late Jack Myers, is her brother. So anyway, welcome, Ellen. I'm really glad to have you here from California.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
I'm going to get you started, if that's okay, with a couple of questions that we would like to ask. Basically, how would you describe yourself first and foremost, as a writer, producer, or screenwriter?
Good question. I would say I'm a storyteller, in whatever guise that takes. If it's short stories, novels, lyrics, screenplays, whatever it is, I'm looking for the story, I'm looking to find it, and I'm looking to tell it. So I would say, first and foremost, I'm a storyteller.
Great. What first inspired you in that direction?
My brother Jack. When I was a little kid, I used to type his poetry. And so from doing that for a very long time, I sort of learned the placement of words, like how one word next to another word can be so extraordinary and mean so many different things and resonate in so many different ways. And so I guess it just really appealed to me that using words to express yourself was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent with words in your family. That's for sure. You're extremely smart group of folks. I've had my brain tangled like spaghetti over the years, you know, trying to sometimes understand and the amazing concepts and use of language that runs through your entire family.
Well,
how would you describe your writing in terms of thematic, interests, and style?
I would say that I'm really interested in character-driven stories of transformation, where a character is dealing with some internal conflict, and through the process of the story, they're working it out, they're facing obstacles and challenges, and through the journey of the story, they come to a revelation, they make a change, or they cause other people around them to change as a result of what they went through, should they survive it. And so that's really what interests me, is how the story resonates as a human story, and how it can be, as Aristotle would say, to teach and please. So I want to know about people. I want to know how I can be better. You know, better they go through the situation than me, and I can watch and I can learn and I can feel it.
So, I mean, this is a little of a riff on what you just said, but so basically, like your brother, your affinity is much more with literary or human heart versus sort of convoluted plots, and you know the kind of a lot of the things that are the multi-million-dollar big buck Hollywood programs. Yours is much more about looking deeply inside of somebody and how people transform in that way. Is that what you're basically saying about the human connection?
I am, but I also think that, for example, Alien was a big blockbuster movie, but it's really a heroic story, and it's really about somebody fighting their demons and trying to survive. So even within the context of big Hollywood blockbusters, it was a real story, and a story of transformation, a story of struggle and survival. So all those sort of mythic themes, whatever genre you can bury those mythic themes in, it doesn't matter what the budget is, that still has to be intact. Otherwise, you're looking at a video game, and even those are getting really, really sophisticated. But it's just that sort of what connects me to the story, what connects me to the characters, and I don't really care the context in what they are. A beautiful song, even a TV commercial will carry me away in 30 seconds if it connects to me. And so that's really what it's about, is finding that connection and the sort of excuse me, the qualities that resonate with me as a human being, and trying to evolve and get better.
Yeah, this is actually, I linked your on Facebook. I linked your class with something I read about on HBO. That they've got this new program out that's called, I think it's called The Leftovers, which is a kind of interesting title, and they have a big budget concept, and that is, what if the rapture, actually happened, and 2% of the world population just mysteriously disappeared, and yet they have decided not to do the big, really hugely blockbuster potential of that, and instead are using this to focus on what would happen with mass grief, like after wars, and mass pain, and how do people deal with things they don't understand, because apparently some of the fundamentalists who are very much into the rapture are still there, and some of the bad people, quote unquote, were taken away. So it didn't happen exactly as people predicted and thought they understood. So that, I'm thinking that maybe that's a kind of thing that where it could be a big budget and big concept, but it's still dealing with little human interest and connections. And I thought that, anyway, I thought that was I'm really looking forward to seeing that show once it comes out.
It sounds great. Sounds great.
Okay, here's a question I'd like. Having known you, luckily for me, over the years, you're a pretty earthy person, and you've got a lot of deeply humane values. And there's always the concept of people in LA being into these benevolent values, but you actually are deeply connected on a humane level. Do you ever feel out of sync or out of sorts with Hollywood and LA?
Well, I can't say that I've ever been in sync with Hollywood, so which has been a blessing and a curse. But I just try to write good material, and I really, really believe if you write a great story, someone is going to feel the same way you do, and that person will either help you finance your vision, or they will know someone or be connected to someone. So again, everything starts with story, and the stronger the story, the more authentic the story, even if it's sci-fi or fantasy, the more authentic the roots of that story, the more connected to themes that people can relate to, the money will find you. That's my philosophy, and that's why I'm an independent writer. So I don't think I could be told to write something, and that's just a personal thing for me. So I'm never going to be a gazillionaire, and I refuse to write something whose characters will end up on coffee mugs or in notebooks. But I will write something that Hollywood might embrace, because there are really great people working here, especially in the independent film market, who understand that they have a duty and an obligation to move the audience. And so that's all I can do. I can't be something I'm not, so that's it.
Speaking of the way Hollywood works, versus how a literary or very humane screenwriter works, does a really good screenplay have a chance in Hollywood, or is it kind of akin to winning the lottery?
Again, you know, excuse me, I think a really good story has a better chance than a big budget crappy movie, and I'm all for taking hold of your own destiny. If you have a really good story and you're looking for financing, I am a huge advocate of making a short film, sort of as a trailer for that movie. You can do it yourself. You can write it, you can shoot it, you can edit it, you can get it exactly the way you want it, your vision of it, and I think that speaks, again, that speaks to someone who will get it and help you, and it's all collaboration, but it all starts first with the story, with you and your vision of the story. So yeah, I mean, and hopefully you have somebody helping you to get that story out there, an attorney, a manager, or an agent. Even if you don't, you have a network of friends, you have social media, you have Kickstarter. I'm a big advocate of taking your own destiny in your hands and you know, at least getting out there and getting the feedback and trying to do everything you can to attract what you need to get the film made in the way you want it made.
In some ways, you may have already answered this, but I'm going to sort of take the same question from a slightly adjacent angle, and that is, what other markets are out there for the competent and maybe even excellent screenwriter, aside from shooting for the Blockbuster or HBO, or what else is out there?
Film festivals. There are a gazillion terrific, small and very well-known film festivals that have competitions for screenplays. And a lot of the students that I teach end up taking their scripts and submitting them and getting attention, getting the backup and the support they need. And so I'm a big fan of film festivals, screenwriting contests, and again, making a short, do it. There's so much talent. There's so many people, you know, cinematographers that have just gotten out of school that are looking for material, producers that need to produce their first thing. You know, there's plenty of networking, plenty of opportunities. Get it done. Don't wait. Get it done.
This is a little side thing that, I guess it's a comment that I would, if you want to jump on it. It seems to me that a screenwriter has a different challenge than, say, a poet, in the sense that there's a mass audience for screenwriting that, unfortunately, poetry no longer has. And so it seems that screenwriters, once they get stuff out there, also in some ways have to become a marketing person. So they're going from being an introvert who's writing to having to really be out there and push themselves and promote them. It seems like a very odd thing for a writer to have to be doing. You have to hustle in a way that you don't have to do if you're a different kind of writer.
Oh, that's very true. Excuse me. That's very true. I mean, this is a very odd situation for me to be doing an interview, a video interview, because I'm a writer. I like to not have to fix my hair and look for a clean V-neck to put on. I like to write when it's happening, and so it's you have to just refocus yourself. But I think yeah, I mean, there's a bit of sales, everything now. The downside is, yeah, you have to sell yourself. Even as a screenwriter, you have to be able to do a log line of your script. You have to be able to say it in one sentence that represents the entire story that you've written. You have to be able to write a synopsis. And these are sales tools. So you have to not only write the thing, you have to actually hand it in with a sales sheet, let's say, or a top sheet. And you know, it's skills, it's just tools. You just learn how to do it, you practice it, you do it well, and, you know, it's the bane of every writer's existence until you're really, really well known and you're represented and you don't need to do that stuff. When you're starting out, you need to know how to sell yourself. And you can be the shyest person in the world, like I'm sort of shy, but your writing speaks for itself. And the person who's interested in you is interested in your work. And they just want to know that you're not a monster and that they can work with you and that you're collaborative. And actually, in the adaptation class, I'm going to show a short film that started out as a poem. And it's fantastic. So even for poets now, I say get out there and make a short film. Take a poem, man. I mean, they're so succinct and they're so, you know, exquisite in their specificity, poetry. So if you can marry, you know, if you wrote it, you have the imagery. So now the next step, just take the imagery and create it. And you can do it. The hard part is the writing. If you've written it, that's the easy part. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, the hard part is putting it together in a medium that you can sell. So, but it's all doable. I believe that.
That whole question really kind of about having to market and having to sort of be a one-man band. You had a very difficult journey, a long journey, with Cloud Street. A lot of people don't know it because it's the beloved Australian novel. Could you tell us just briefly about Cloud Street and then about your long journey to get it written and produced for the screen? That was a saga.
It was.
The West was won.
Well, the story takes place over 25 years. It took me 18 to get it made. So that's why I can sit here with authority and say, do it, you can do it. And a good story will find the money, because I know from experience. I read that book. It's like a 342 or 344 page novel. I was so moved by the novel, I had to keep putting it down. It just destroyed me. And I kept thinking, as I was reading it, this thing is a movie. I can see it. I can feel it. I love it. I have to do this. So I went after the option in the book, brought some producers who had deep pockets with me, and I ended up doing 22 drafts of the script for film, for a feature film, and those were drafts based on producers' notes, different directors' notes, different actors' notes, whatever anybody needed. I sort of, retooled it for whatever actor we were going after, whatever director, what his vision was. I worked with a bunch of directors, and I think really the sort of problem with that process, that project in the beginning, was there was a sort of resistance to an American writer writing the great Australian novel. And I think, I understand that. It would be like someone non-American writing The Grapes of Wrath. I mean, that was the importance that this book had. And so there was a sort of allegiance to it and a sort of people wanting to see it fail. Either they didn't want to touch it because they were afraid of it, or they wanted to see it fail with an American, two American producers and an American writer, and blah, blah, blah. So it was a really, talk about a sales job. It was a slugfest from start to finish. And we have basically had almost every piece of Australian talent, every Australian director at one time or another over those years we spoke to. And finally, I had just sort of shelved it and gone on and just knew it, let it sit there, and knew at some point somebody with some, foresight was going to see that it was the story that mattered. And So eventually, the ABC stepped up and they got in touch with me and said, would you like to make a mini-series? And I was like, hell yeah, because you go from having to write 25 years in 2 hours to suddenly you're doing it in 4 hours. So who doesn't want that page space to blow those characters out and to give them the sort of time to evolve at a slower pace, at a more particular pace than what you're doing if you're trying to adhere to 120 pages. So I was so happy. So I did a couple of drafts for a 4-hour, and then I worked with Tim Winton, the novelist himself. I went to Australia and worked with him a couple of times, different versions. And then it actually ended up being a 6-hour, which was like, hallelujah. And
that's a lot of writing.
It is a lot of writing. But, you know, it's a collaboration, so it grew sort of organically. As it expanded, it sort of shifted, and the scenes got more specific and were able to sort of breathe, and it just became this sort of beautiful thing. And it was a long journey. My daughter was in 1st grade when I started and graduated college when it got made. So imagine.
She's definitely not in 1st grade now.
So it was great, though. I mean, you know, it was a triumph that it got made. It was definitely a triumph. I never want to go through that again, but it was very instructive.
Wow. What are you working on now?
Well, I just finished an adaptation of another Tim Winton novel, and this takes place over 125 years, almost 150 years, starts in 1830 and goes up to the present. So now, instead of 25 years in 2 hours, I'm putting 150 years in 2 hours, so that's been a great challenge. And I was asked not to use a narrator, which really made me dig deep on how to tell the story, because I'm flashing backwards, I'm in present tense, I'm flashing forward, I'm flashing sideways, I'm flashing all over the place to try to put all these elements that are informing the story in the present. And so that was great, and I just turned that in. And I'm also teaching undergraduate and graduate screenwriting at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. I'm doing the online courses. And I'm working on a short film, and I'm doing some consulting. So, and I have a full-time job beside all that. So I sort of don't sleep a lot.
And I'm just going to, before I ask you the last question, I want people to know that they can go to the Writers Garret website, and if they also go to our calendar on the side is June, and you can go to June and they can hit that and learn more about your class, and there's links to Cloud Street and other things in your website, and the little link is so incredible. I thought, oh man, I really want to watch this. You know, I want to binge watch Cloud Street. And the production values are
they did a
anything you'll see anywhere. It's just incredible. So there's that. But given that, they can also register for your course, which I want you to explain in a moment. And if they don't go to the calendar, they can also go to the left side of our website, and there's links, and it says registration open now. And so they can do either Saturday or Sunday, or they can do both. And Saturday is an overall boot camp, basically, for screenwriting, and then there's adaptations, which is what Cloud Street is, on Sunday. And I've got an adaptation I want to work on, so I'm very excited.
Right.
Anyway, in 60 seconds or less, why should anybody take your course, which is going to be June 14th and 15th here in Dallas? So,
well, I think. Okay, so here's the deal. There are certain basics you have to learn. You just have to learn them. And I think that I give it in a very digestible way and an accessible way. The thing is you need to learn them and then you need to forget them, but first you have to learn them, and that's about structure and things like that. And I think the easiest way to teach that is to explain it and then to demonstrate it with short films that do it beautifully, because there's only so much blah, 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 and before you start to, like, you know, try to decide who you're going to unfriend on Facebook. So I try to use examples to demonstrate those things, the techniques, and also I have a lot of practical knowledge. I have a lot of sort of this is how you can do it, or you can do it this way, or you can do it this way, kind of things that you might not find in a sort of a theoretical screenwriting class. Also, I think it's important that I'm a working writer, and you know, I'm sort of in touch with the craft, and I'm working in the craft every day, and I'm learning things, and I'm going to share some tools that I use that you can think about that make it easier. And I've been doing this a long time, and it's helped me, and maybe it'll help you. And I'm very supportive. That's why I produce, because I love good stories, and I encourage people to write. And I encourage people to be active and not just procrastinate or feel stuck, or I sort of know how to unglue people, and that's it. It's fun. It's if nothing else, you'll enjoy the afternoon and pick up a lot of skills and see some great short films, and hopefully be inspired. Hopefully go home and write, because you'll have the tools at the end of the day to actually go ahead and write a draft. I'll show you how to format it. I'll show you what needs to go into it. I'll give you all those basics, but in a way that is easily digestible and fun, I hope.
Great. Ashley, do we have anybody waiting who wants to ask some questions or anything, or is there any Q&A?
There aren't any questions, but there is a comment from, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced her last name, Rebecca Balcarcel, who has done readings for us before. Actually, she says, Ellen, thanks for such wonderful advice and for the inspiration of your personal story.
Ah, you're so welcome.
And I want to thank Ellen Myers-Fontana, and she will be coming to Dallas from Los Angeles on Saturday, June 14th and Sunday, June 15th. You can check out our website at writersgarret.org. And I want to especially thank, Ashley, can you switch back to me for a moment or not? Okay, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I want to thank the National Endowment for the Arts, who made the Writers Studio possible, and also the City of Dallas Office of Cultural Affairs, the Texas Commission on the Arts, and the James Halpern Foundation and Heritage Auction Galleries. So thank you very, very much for your support of the Writers Studio over the years, and as we kind of branch off.
Whoops, Thea. Ashley, we lost Thea.
I believe we did. Again, thanks everybody who tuned in to our Writers Studio beta test today, and again, thanks to all those organizations who made this possible, and thank you, Ellen, for...
My pleasure. Come on down and write something. Come on down.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your inspirational stories, and we look forward to seeing you in June for your classes on the 14th and 15th.
My pleasure. Thank you.